Hello YouTube and welcome back to Stevetown. This is episode 9 and we are once again jumping straight into a time-lapse today while we have a little bit of a chat before the tour later. We are partly doing that again to fill time, but also I think it was kind of nice last time having a little bit of a time-lapse followed by a little bit of a tour, break it up a little bit, you know. So yeah, that's what we're doing. And since last week, really, I've mainly been working on this area outside the park here, the junction, which I think I talked about in the last episode. Mainly I've been working on this for two reasons really. It's partly because I'm waiting for Kindly to finish supporting the coaster. The coaster is it's not in this version of the file that's going to be in the video today. It's plausible that you'll see it while I'm doing this time lapse, but in the tour I've decided to take it out because it has like a profound effect on the skyline of the park, which I think is really cool, and I want to sort of save showing that off too much until the actual episode. So I've taken it out of this of the tour part of today's episode, but I didn't want to do too much work on the area around the coaster until Kindly was kind of like, you know, comfortably far along with it. Obviously I need stuff to show off now that I'm doing YouTube. I need stuff to show off in the YouTube videos, so it's kind of pointless me making too much progress on that before I can show it off. So I thought we might as well do all of this stuff outside the park here, which I said I wasn't going to do initially, and then obviously changed my mind and made a car park. And then I was like, oh no, I've got a car park. I kind of want to have a little like road junction with some shops and stuff. And I'm not gonna put too much detail into the shops. I thought, I'm just gonna do, you know, I'll build them all with grid pieces, and it'll just be kind of, you know, it'll be sort of more impressionistic. I won't do. But anyway, obviously, as you can see here, that was all a lie, and I ended up building some needlessly intricate facades for this motel here. I wanted to have a motel on the corner, and as you'll see a little bit later on, I built a strip mall as well. I didn't go like crazy on the details, but it's more detailed than I had initially been planning for this area outside the park. But you know what it's like, once you start working on an area, it's like, this idea would be cool and this idea would be cool. And I tried to sort of balance it out a bit. I used quite a few blueprints from the workshop, which I will point out as we're going around in the live tour section. But for a couple of things I did want to actually like build some stuff, so that the only work I'd really done this week wasn't just road markings, which, let me tell you, doing road markings is possibly somehow less fun than doing curbs. It might be the least fun thing that you can do in this game. Yeah, obviously tastes vary. I'm sure there are some people who are really into infrastructure, you know, road markings, laying out roads and all that sort of stuff. And there was a time, a little bit of a story time, at school you had to do work experience, and I think when I was like 16 I did work experience at my local county council, because at one point in time I thought I may want to be a civil engineer. That's what my granddad did, and it was actually really cool and interesting, and they gave me like AutoCAD, I think it was. They let me go hog wild on the AutoCAD. They were planning to build a new park and ride at the time, and they basically said, why don't you kind of have some fun designing a possible layout for the park and ride. So I did that in the AutoCAD. That was really interesting actually, because they had all these like ancient folders that were full of like intricate diagrams illustrating like turning circles for buses and lorries and cars, and you had to use all of these diagrams to make sure that your road layouts were drivable and all that sort of stuff. It was pretty interesting, but at some point in time I just became, you know, more interested in other stuff as I got older. What am I going on about? What I wanted to say was that at this moment in my life I do not find enough joy in like researching road markings in order to make it all like 100% realistic and accurate. And when I started doing the car park, I was like, I need to make sure that all the lorries will be able to like make these turns and blah blah blah. I just quickly realized that like I actually had zero interest in doing that. And that I really didn't want to spend loads of time researching American road markings. I had a quick look on Google Maps at some places in Pennsylvania, outside Kennywood specifically, because I just wanted to make sure I was like in the ballpark in terms of something that looks like vaguely realistic at a glance. Because really, if we're being real with ourselves, like I'm going to show this off in this episode, but I'm going to upload this park to the workshop, and I can guarantee you that like 90% of people, if anyone even downloads the park to look at it, hardly anyone is going to spend any time looking around the stuff outside the park. So I didn't want to go too crazy detailed on any of it, let alone the road markings, which are, as I say, criminally boring to work on. And yeah, it was a little bit of a struggle, to be honest, getting myself to work on this stuff this week, because it wasn't anywhere near as bad as last week where I didn't even want to open the file. But this week it was like, I want to work on the park, I want to open the file, but every time I open it, it's like, oh, more road markings. God, when can I be done with this? But I think what I've kind of settled on in the end, I'm pretty pleased with. You know, it's serviceable, and it just adds a nice little like vibe to the outside of the park. So yeah, with all of that said, let's jump over into the live section and I'll show you everything else I've been up to. Okay, here we are. We are starting off today outside the park here. And yeah, as you can see, most of what I've been working on this week is this kind of junction area outside the park. Immediate thing to flag, obviously, we've now got a logo for the park here on the edge of the car park. The idea here really was just so that you would have like an obvious marker of what this is from the road here for where the turning is. And I guess we'll just go around all the corners of the junction. So here we've got the motel that I was just working on in the time lapse. These little ice machines I made ages ago for another project. I was building this kind of USA town park, and I also had a motel there, but it was like a midway motel. So it's kind of this sort of layout, but instead of bedrooms here, obviously it was all like midway stalls. That's a free idea if anyone wants to take that. But yeah, anyway, I made these ice machines way back then, and I thought, well, it'd be nice to reuse those in the spirit of everything, you know, how this park is all about reusing old ideas. And then this place here was made for the same project, the USA Town Park. It's based on an old reference image, which I can't find anymore. But again, you know, this was built back in like 2018, and I thought it would be nice to just bring it in here. This little patio area I built in the last week as like a little add-on. Got a nice little kind of trellis that you can walk under, and then some classic hydro tables and chairs, and that creates a nice little vibe there. Do need to point out as well, I found all these great wings and strings trucks in my blueprint list, and I was like, oh yes, we've got to use these. These things are beautiful. So there's one here, and then there's a couple more that I'll show you as we're going around. Also worth pointing out at the back here, you can hardly see this, so it's a very minor detail that I thought would be fun to add. This is also a Wings and Strings train here, diesel train. And I just wanted to have like a sort of coal freight train coming through the area, just as a little nod to the coal trade in Pennsylvania. And then on the park side of the junction, we've got the Double R Diner, which I showed off briefly in the last episode. And this is based on the diner from the TV show Twin Peaks. I am a huge fan of Twin Peaks and David Lynch in general. And again, this is something that I built like years ago at this point, and that I'd been dying to use in a project. This just seemed like a great way to get it used finally, get it on this corner. I think it looks lovely on this little corner here. And then I guess staying on this side of the road, this is a gas station that I think Silent Member made. I do believe we've got a couple of Silent Member pieces helping me fill out the area out here. And I thought it was amusing that they'd also made some ice, some of these ice thingies, ice boxes. And this actually does have an interior. I'd forgotten that I needed to seal that off. And then this little donut shack is also by Silent Member. I think they made this for like a YouTube series they did briefly where they were making little blueprints, which I think is also the case for the Main Street building that I'm using by them. But yeah, I thought this is really cute. And obviously it makes sense to have a police car sitting at the window. I'm not really sure about the placement of this, like it's like it's right in the middle of this car park here. I couldn't figure out where to put it. That'll do for now. And then at the end here on this side, we've got this little strip mall. I wanted to build a strip mall. I thought it would be fun. And obviously the headline thing at this strip mall here is Eben's Heaven Massage and Spa. The idea here was I was watching the last episode of Koali Zoo, and I just thought it was funny how Eben had sort of come in and sort of like massaged over everyone's work and sort of gotten them to the finish line. So I just thought this would be a funny little nod to Eben. He's a legend, and of course, happy finish guaranteed. And then we've got a Mexcelente and a Gelateria de Maria. The rest of them except one are really just kind of like filling space. We've got a Pet Mart and a Trust Med, definitely trustworthy. Some kind of pharmacy or something. And then the last one to point out really is the Geekism board games and trading cards. Just a little nod to John T. I know that he works in or at least I think he works in a shop that sells like board games and tabletop games and stuff. So I thought this would just be fun. I tried to approximate his channel logo colors, and it looks pretty garish because it doesn't have any of the subtlety of the of the gradient and stuff that he uses. But yeah, so that's the little strip mall, and obviously we've got the sign here with all the names and stuff on it. And then on the other side of the road here, we've got a Wendy's, which I believe is made by Blue Jay. Very nicely done. And then we've got another little kind of dilapidated strip mall here, which Cheez-It made, and I believe it's based on something from Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul. I can't remember which one, and I was just very happy to take it off his hands and use it to fill some space here. And then a little bit further down here, I've put in a few houses. These are also made by Silent Member. They've got a really good pack on the workshop that's just got loads of these kind of generic kind of suburban American houses. I didn't want to go too far outside the junction here in terms of where I was going to do stuff, but because the last coaster kind of comes into this patch of grass here, I thought we might as well put something opposite the road there. And these are a pretty nice little space filler. And yeah, I think the vibe actually feels pretty good when you're like down here looking back in this direction. And then on the other side of the car park over here, yeah, I think this is where I'm going to cut it off basically. I'm not planning to do anything else in this direction. Like, we've got the service road that I was talking about last time, which just leads down to the backstage area here. And we got another one of Wings and Strings' trucks here. This was the Mineral Junction Quarry Co. truck. Again, just absolutely fantastic work. These things hold up so well still. Something else to point out over here, I had the spawn point like just in the middle of the car park, and the guests were kind of walking through the cars and stuff to get over into the entrance. So I thought, well, we should put that in a building. So I built this little toilet block, and now guests are kind of spawning out of here and then walking along the pavement up into the entrance. Yeah. That's all looking pretty nice. I've kind of tidied up this backstage area and a few of the other backstage areas. The vibe with the backstage is very much like with the outside of the park, where it's like I'm not doing maximum detail, maximum realism. You know, the idea is very much just like enough detail so that it's like filled out, but nowhere near the same level of detail as inside the park. We've got another Wings and Strings truck here with Kinderly's logo on it. Big fan of this one. Obviously we don't have a B&M in the park, so this makes very little sense. What I probably should have done here is put the track for the new coaster that's coming in on this truck, but I didn't think of that, so I'm just going to leave this as it is for now. And then, yeah, this backstage here now kind of, you know, it wraps around to here. This has been tidied up a little bit. We've got some rubble and some little carts. We've got another little kind of staff room in here. And then over the other side, I think I very briefly touched on this backstage area before. But yeah, I could show you a little bit more of this now. So we've got this kind of like loading bay here. I think this little box here was made by Beyond Drew. It's a blueprint from the workshop. And then this larger warehouse, also a blueprint from the workshop. I don't remember exactly who made it, but I will put a link in the description. And then yeah, this whole kind of backstage area just stretches all the way along here behind the kind of main street. We've got a few warehouses, we've got rear access to all the shops. This is the little gate by the curbing, Conifer Curbing Co. We got our kind of electrical transformers for taking all the power from the grid and making it suitable for launch coasters and all the rides and everything. We've got, you know, cars that parked up everywhere, another little office building of some kind here, and then yeah, this just leads back all the way around here to Dust Devil, where we've got the transfer shed, maintenance shed with the transfer track. And I still haven't figured out how to deal with these supports which are clipping through the roof. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that. I'm probably not going to do anything about it. And that basically ties up most of the stuff that I've got to show you on today's episode. Maybe we'll finish up by just showing you this area here by the UFO chaser. I extended this little area on the left here. We've got the Mine Gluten cart, which I made years ago for No Name Landia. Some benches by the lake on the left here. And on the right, we've got the Hoagie Hut Cheesesteaks Emporium. I think after I mentioned in a previous episode that the park was going to be set in Pennsylvania, I think Nitro left a comment saying, well, you've got to put a cheesesteak place if it's in Pennsylvania. So that was the idea here, just a cool little cheesesteak restaurant. And that is basically what I've got to show you in today's episode. I think we've pretty much got one episode left, basically. This is a little teaser for you. The new coaster's going in here. There's a bit of the coaster where it kind of comes through this trench and then it loops back around into the station. So there's going to be a little kind of like plaza inside that here. And the entrance, I've got the sign for the ride down there, but I'm not going to zoom in and show you yet. But yeah, basically this is what's left. Now that we've done the bit outside the park, well, it's this and it's tying up this little extra little backstage here, which will have like a road which comes around to service the new coaster. And that is basically going to be it for Stevetown. So we are very near the end. Very little left to do. It's very exciting. I am going to have to figure out if I'm going to do any stuff on the channel between finishing Stevetown and Planet Coaster 2 coming out, because we've got about a month before the new game comes out, and this is nowhere near a month's work. You know, I'm hoping to get this all done in the next week or so. So that's going to leave a few weeks where, I don't know, obviously the thing is, now that I've started doing YouTube, it's like, well, you know, the YouTube algorithm wants me to keep posting. So I need to figure out if and what I'm going to post in the gap between Stevetown ending and Planet Coaster 2 coming out. I mean, I don't even know if I'm going to be posting content as soon as the new game comes out, to be honest. I've no idea what I'm going to do in the game yet. So yeah, at this point I am just like speaking my thoughts out loud, and I'm sure it's entirely uninteresting. So that's just something for me to think about. In the meantime, as always, thank you so much for all the love and support on the series. Thanks for watching, especially if you made it this far. And I will catch you next time. Be good to each other. Bye.